little bit to try to check tree poles or bush crabs, and we are off. Both players starting in opposite places.
Well, Ben may have had the inverted sanctuary heart. We'll never know.
Really quick map check there. We've got we got normal pendants over at Eastern Palace and Desert Palace, and a normal crystal up at Hera. So all of the extra item dungeons are in the Dark World today.
And with so many of the items that we need in order to complete the seed being so, important for all of these dungeons in the Dark World, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of logical gating that's going to be influenced by. But we definitely see both runners heading towards that uncle. Could be a vanilla sword, who knows?
I am a fan of Uncle Start myself. I know some people aren't really, because why come all the way up here if you can't just go ahead and go into the castle and complete it? But if you start here before going to town, there's 3 extremely fast items that you can get before getting into town, and there's a bunch of enemies you can take out as well. So you can possibly get that extra bomb drop you need to finish up, and we do see the Power Glove here quite quickly.
Yeah, getting the Power Glove before we head towards Kakariko is a pretty nice boon. We're going to have a lot of flexibility depending on which direction we even want to go in the Light World. And we won't have to be gate kept too much by the various things that are locked behind the actual gloves. And it also makes going from South Shore towards Kakariko a more appealing option.
Yeah, we see both players doing the same thing here. After finding that glove, they decided to start at Link's house. I don't know if this was for the free bomb that's outside Link's house, or if this is just something they do anyway. We do see the South of Grove here have a little bit of, like, the major, not major RNG, not some RNG that isn't item-based, I guess. 2 of these bushes have a 50-50 shot of being bombs, and it's actually a great place to have bombs early on.
And it's interesting that Ben's going for more of these bombs. There is a there are 4 bombs you can get in the hut in the bottom left corner of Kakariko that only costs you 1 bomb to get into, and you only have to spend it once, and it replenishes. So getting at least 3, making sure he has enough for Kakariko, that's an interesting choice.
3 would be the minimum number you need to finish everything in town, as long as you don't have to do the race game. So I do know that you're right, the little supply hut they have down there is pretty attractive. I'm not gonna argue that one, but it's hard to take the time to do that when you are so content on just having like the bare minimum, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot on the line today, and it's more than just pride. Well, speaking of pride, our runners are representing different sprites very enthusiastically. We have Nature Link on the left for Ben, and Buane's wearing, I believe that's just the Dark Link skin.
Right, we are getting into the meat of village here. I'm checking out the chicken hut here. I see in open mode there's a lot of different ways people come in here. A lot of people go, ooh, there's the lamp, very nice. I see a lot of people that just start at Sanctuary and, loop up to check Agina's, or check out the Lumberjack Ledge and get the tree poles and the bush crab stuff there, and then come down through town. You get a lot of different early routing in open mode, it seems, and I think that's super neat. It's a thing about the mode I like a lot.
And it's even more interesting to see that with the diversity of choices available to them, that they actually are going the exact same route. So far, though, we haven't found anything major that'll get us to the bottle vendor, for example, as far as rubies go. But we did find that lamp in Chicken Shack, like you mentioned, and that does make early plays into, say, places like Eastern or up the mountain possible. Mountain, actually. But we don't have much we can do up there yet.
Yeah, Mountain is looking pretty nice right now, even though that only is 2 items we have access to. It wouldn't surprise me to see a hookshot or mirror coming up pretty soon. Buane not having any bombs is kind of forced to come down here and buy some, unless he wants to gamble some in the Blind's basement, which is really hard to do, honestly. I kind of like the idea of just going to buy some.
While there's a decent chance you can get the bombs, it's just pretty random.
Yeah, it is going to make him a little bit... It's going to be a little bit difficult for him to buy the bottle vendor items, and he just spent 50 on the thing. So we'll see if he decides to take the extra trip here to farm rupees, or if he's just going to, leave it for later. Ben, even without buying bombs, is going to have just barely enough.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to think of where he's going to try and get his next bombs. He could start at Link's house if he wants to try for that bomb.
Well, at least he won't miss it today. It's just 20.
Yeah, so it could just be a 200 IQ play for a 20% rebate avoided. But Buane may end up checking that later. Ben will head towards Lost Woods. Or no, he's gonna head towards. Oh, now I'm just confused. He's picking up bombs.
Yeah, this little bomb rock here is actually very rarely used, I see, but it's you usually don't have the power glove this early, so it's pretty nice, and you can actually grab that as we're walking by. Boyne a little unlucky with the rock, but luckily has bot bombs, so he's just fine.
Yeah, and I don't think we've killed 4 enemies yet, so that should have been a tier 2 tree pull, giving us a vanilla 5 rupee drops, and we're getting even more rupees here in the forest, so this does put us into a better position long term, but we still need a lot more if we're going to check Zora, which is available.
Yeah, I guess it is, huh? That's gonna be quite a long shot. It might be a while before we get over there, but we can. That's definitely in logic with just the glove.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, would you worry about the money, or would you worry about the money on the line for the match?
Oh, geez.
I feel like everything has a certain extra weight to it in this setting. But with the glove, we are able to check the back half of Escape, and we did get a key in the Sanctuary, so we should be able to head backwards with that lamp as well.
Oh yeah, we can get all the way to that little cross-shaped dark room down there, can't we? Ben is gonna have to take out the rat, I think, but only has a single bomb to do so. Yeah, without any ammunition back here, that's all he has. Alright, this is gonna be the most important bomb throw.
I mean, I feel like you got to carry that like a torch, you know, an Olympic torch. You just gotta not let it hit the ground.
There you go. Just no chance of failure there. Just ram him with the bomb. It all works out.
When all else fails, you just gotta carry. But so not gonna play it like Bomberman today. Gonna play it like like Zelda, and we do get to check what's back here.
This is great. I'm loving the synchronized checks so far. I can assume we might see its bombs.
What a great reward for killing that rat.
I can assume we might see some South Shore going on right now. That's the next kind of high density place here initially when we haven't really unlocked anything. Ben might need to go buy some bombs, and looks like that's what he's going to do. That might actually change his routing slightly to go up to the Eastern Palace area instead of immediately going down the South Shore.
Makes a lot of sense. You can jump off the sledge and find out there's an arrow capacity upgrade without wasting the time on a fake flipper. So heading north when you're going to buy the bombs anyway seems very sensible.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard choice to make to come all the way over here to buy bombs just to go all the way back around to go to South Shores. So we might as well just do this since he's already up here. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. So we'd finally see divergence from the two players.
And this divergence is going to tell us a lot, seeing as there's not a ton of things that we can do besides go up the mountain once both of these runners have exhausted these particular areas.
Yeah, one of these has got to be right. I'm feeling a hookshot or mirror coming up, unless, of course, one of those is just on the old man or sitting in Spectral Rock Cave, I guess.
You know, it definitely help us to get more access to, you know, Death Mountain. We're going to find out the Green Pendant is in Dark Palace, which is not very far from its middle location today.
Yeah, that's pretty close by. Oh, there's some flippers. All right, so there's a... That'll probably help out Ben's routing a little bit once he finally gets to South Shore then. And we do get our first bottle in that ferry right there.
Yes, not only is it safety, but the sick kid in Kakariko will be able to get over his cold from the cold wind coming off of Death Mountain. So hopefully we'll get to find out an item, but it might be a little bit. Wayne here having some very strange issues with this Moldorm.
He got stuck on one side and then just went straight horizontally and got stuck on the other side.
Is that not the most Think Dorm moment you can see in this game?
That's pretty up there, yeah.
Well, go figure. He was guarding the bow.
Oh, wow. So you get pendants in both Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness. And you're thinking, well, okay, suddenly the bow can maybe be in Ganon's tower, but no. It's just sitting here right at the start of the game.
Which we know is terrible news for Ben. However, you know, he may not even be too worried about this dungeon in the grand scheme of things. He can still check pretty much everything except for Armos, which may or may not have that compass.
Yeah, having that lamp already definitely puts Armos in logic as a spot of, you know, having a potential progression item. So we'll see if Buane decides to actually do all of Eastern Palace or not with that extra bow. That might just be kind of an extra time waster that Ben won't have to think about, but we'll see if it's actually progression or not.
And Ice Rod Cave today is going to be our literacy. We will find the Book of Medora, which translates highly, and it also tells us whether or not the pedestal is the bane of everything, or something simply evil.
You know, with that book, we're pretty close to having Desert Palace completable as well. Potentially, if we just depends on if we need the book or not, and I guess a weapon to fight the boss with.
Yeah, Bomb Molus would not be very fun. Well, Bomb Molus, I mean, can you even do that with 10 bombs?
With 10 bombs, I don't think so. Maybe if you get
I
some
mean-
really lucky double hits.
We're obviously assuming that you're, like, walking into every single shot.
Huh.
The world may never know, because I don't think anybody's crazy enough to try it personally. But maybe you are out there in the audience. I mean, prove me wrong. Why not?
I think I've had to do like a combination of bombs and Samaria land moles before, maybe.
Yeah, we've definitely
been
seen it
pretty
in the spring
crazy.
tourney with Canaberna.
Oh, geez, that sounds really fun. Asterisk.
Well, it looks like both of our runners have caught the Eastern bug. One of them does not have the bow. That's Ben on the left, and Buane here does. So we're going to find out in a moment with this vanilla big key chest whether or not that compass is on Armos or not.
Yeah, Ben's gonna have to. Oh, well, let's see what the item is first before I say anything. Okay, Armos has an item, and I think Boyne's gonna. He might very well just grab it. Ben not interested in South Shore right now, actually. Might be going up to Death Mountain right now.
Which is interesting. I mean, we haven't found anything that would make him have less access to the world from that, but...
Oh,
Is
he's
Ben
gonna
heading-
Houlihan.
Oh. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what this is or what you're about to see, this is an error handling room that the game was programmed with, basically to handle whatever, you know, when Link does a transition that doesn't get handled properly by the game. And it's a reference to a winner of a Nintendo Power Contest, Chris Houlihan, in the 90s, or the late 80s, early 90s, who got his name in the game, and they put 255 rupees in there, fun fact.
And speaking of getting your name in the game here, it's pretty funny that Ben decides to visit the room there, because I believe his name is on that plaque twice.
Yep, he has won 2 tournaments, so yeah, his name is immortalized forever.
Might give him a bit of confidence visiting that. He might be thinking that I might need to do Zora soon, so perhaps that is why. But if he was thinking that, I would guess that you might go check out the rupee room in Eastern Palace, if that might have been on your mind.
Yeah, it's an easy way to pick up some extra rupees. Doesn't take that long. I mean, it's definitely not the fastest rupees possible, but they're certainly there. And unless you're going to like Palace of Darkness shortly thereafter, there's not a lot of reason to try to farm in the area. So I mean, that's definitely a good viable option.
Yeah, the 100 or so rupees that are up in Eastern Palace are definitely a good boon when you're not sure if you're going to get the amount. They could just be like, there could easily just be a 300 rupee down here. And I guess Ben has the flippers already, so we might be able to actually see a couple money chests that Boyne did not get. And that would be highly beneficial, because because there definitely wasn't anything of worth down here. I mean, other than the bow, of course, but, you know, monetary value to access Zora.
Well, you know what is money today is the bomb accuracy from Ben there. He almost gets a full refund from the thief. Unfortunately, had to use an extra bomb to kill all 4 mold orbs, but so far our runners are proving that they're not that bad at hitting things with explosives. And they did pick up bombos, maybe it's a sign. But so you mentioned the flippers, and Ben here has the ability to, of course, take a look at Hylia Island, which he doesn't need to do anything with. And of course the hobo.
Right by. Sorry. Oh man.
Wait a second. Oh, you recognize that? Ah.
You recognize that. I'm on to you. Alright,
All
looks
right,
like
all right.
heading all the way to Armos Night, so we'll be able to see that item there. I'm interested to see if he actually does go for the rupee room. No, I'm not worried about Zora right now. Looks like I wasn't the only one that recognized that.
All right. So there's some people who appreciate good music in this room, which is good, But this game, Link to the Past, has fantastic music. Series trend setting. All right, so I'm a little embarrassed. But the good news is we do get to find out what is behind Armos. Buane here is going to show us a pretty easy, fast kill, in my opinion. I have to assume he's going to do pretty well here.
The hardest part is probably this room right here, having to take out all of these guys with just the bow.
You learn to really appreciate the sword spin.
Yeah, for sure. Not having a sword. I actually saw someone in chat earlier, seeming surprised that there wasn't a sword, and the mode that we are playing in kind of skips the whole escape sequence at the start of the game and does not start you with a sword. So you kind of have to use resources that you probably wouldn't otherwise. And Armos Knights had nothing. All right. So players both on pretty equal footing here. Ben just got the book from all the way down here in the cave, and Buane just now exiting a potentially useless Eastern Palace, because we didn't find anything in here, did we?
No, nothing of value at all. We found 2 big 20s, actually.
Oh, Zora money, but kind of on the light side.
I mean, bottle vendor money, depending on which way you want to look at it.
Speaking of money here, Ben is heading towards the Zora area. He is probably not going to have enough unless we get a 300 drop in one of these last 3 locations that we can get to for Zora right here. Yikes.
I mean, that's quite the gamble. If you're going to make a gamble for money, I mean, that's about the best hope you can have. But he will find out what's on the ledge here, and he can get it if he wants to.
If this is the 300, it's kind of being an annoying run around, and it is just a heart piece. We are out of here.
Yeah, the very best ice cream flavor, vanilla, and that is nothing that we're going to stop for today.
So where do you go now? Escape is pretty accessible, and you have access to everything. Having the lamp, you know that everything is in logic. I mean, of course, they found the key in Sanctuary anyway, but I'm just talking in general. With the bow, this will be pretty easy. I think they just want to do all this before making the commitment up to Death Mountain or Desert Palace, which both of those places need additional items to be able to full clear. So I think this makes a whole lot of sense to come here first.
And that's kind of the tough thing, is you kind of wonder in the back of your mind, does my opponent think I'll do this? Do I think my opponent will do that? And maybe somebody would try to metagame going up the mountain instead of doing an escape. And if they found a mirror or something up there, it could actually cascade really nicely. But if not, I mean, I feel like what most people who qualified, of the top 8, got so through consistency. And I think you're right. They're probably both going to hit escape here. And yeah, Genix Cave being mentioned in chat. Nobody has gone there yet. And we have that bow. Nobody's even looked at Desert. Alright, so we're heading down to the basement here, and we have an opportunity for an item here in Zelda's chest. This will be a last thing in the front of the escape. Meanwhile, Buane here is going to check to see what the sick kid had for us today, having been rewarded with that bottle. Alright, so Buane also finds out about his rebate not being that great, but, maybe a little while before he even considers Zora. And Agina's Cave and Desert area. I mean, Ben may be attempting to read the seed here, looking at that book that we acquired in Ice Rod Cave on the right side of the world. So he will check that. I think I may have lost Mikan there for a minute, but hopefully he'll be back shortly. But so Buane here also going to check the old man on the mountain, which will give us 1 item, and Agina's cave is going to be 50 rupees, and the old man on the mountain has a sword for us today. It's dangerous to go alone. You should take this. Well, that sword doesn't do a ton for us just yet, although it does give us access to, well, the curtains in Hyrule Castle Tower if we get the cape. But it does give us a weapon, and that's important for us at this point since we are trying to, kill most of the enemies that are in our way. It's very annoying and dangerous to go without a sword. Well, Ben has decided to take the plunge into Desert, despite only having picked up 50 rupees. He is a little over 100 shy of checking Zora, so not wanting to commit to the mountain, as Mikan said, seems to make a lot of sense. And there is a pretty decent chance that we'll be boots locked by the item on the torch in here. Ben's not going to waste any time. He's going to find out right away. So it looks like this will have paid off for Ben as a net decision. However, he will end up checking the mountain anyway at some point, so may end up being somewhat time neutral. Getting the big key there does let him get the item in the west room, but the torch today is going to be the cape. Well, so cape has some implications. Cape could be a way for us to get to Aghanim if we find boots, and we would have to find boots pretty soon here. I would think within the room on the east side of the dungeon, which, by the way, we just found out that we are not boots locked as far as this dungeon goes. We may, however, be boots locked to get to Aghanim. Oh, apologies, Chad and Wanakas, you're right. The implications. Well, so despite some of the frustrations of trying to use a bow to navigate Desert Palace, which Buane doesn't have to do, having gone up to the mountain, received it from the old man first, Ben seems to be traversing the dungeon pretty well, and with the compass here, there is an item on Lamolus with 11 arrows. He may wish to pick up a couple of arrow drops here on his way to the west side of the dungeon that are common in NMG. There's a pot to the north of him here, on the right, or in the middle here, I'm sorry, in the middle that has 5 arrows, and he could also stop in the big key room. However, I think he'll probably just go right to the back of the dungeon. This is even more important for Ben, as he does not actually have a sword to fight the boss with, and with 9 bombs, he does not want to default to that. It's a much slower fight, and every second counts in this race. With that, though, Ben is heading into the back half of Desert, and he is counting his arrows carefully.
All right, I'm back. Looks like we're going to be seeing a Buane Moa, huh?
Oh, boy. So 16 arrows, I mean, you can pick up another 5, or was it 10 more in the back here?
It's not a lot. You're going to have to be quite the Deadeye. This is where your NMG practice is really going to come in. It's a nice 5 drop there from that
Yo!
I've never been happier to see a 5 arrow drop.
Popo being a bro. I think the luckiest one I've had outside of that is like one that saved me once in like Palace of Darkness in an NMG run, like just jumping off a ledge to the key, and it just happened to be the perfect drop. You're like, yes.
Yeah, no, that can happen a couple times in Ganon's Tower as well. Just the mimic rooms there, you just happen to run out of arrows at the wrong time, and there's no arrow pots in any convenient spot near there.
Yeah, like right as you're about, or yeah, with just after Armos too. So it's like, you know, if you don't even bother to pick up that 10 drop, you're pretty hosed. Well, moment of truth, 22 arrows is enough to do it. How is Ben at this? He may not have practiced this in a while.
This is... I think, I don't want to speak for NMG people because I don't run it myself, but I imagine this is a fight that is practiced a lot more than others.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. Very few fights have... I mean, you probably practice this about 20 times more than you would ever consider, like, zero-cycle Argus attempts and stuff like that.
5 shots, but I don't think we need that many more. There we go.
Well, Ben pulls it off, and that's a difficult fight to...
Well, that would have been convenient about, 20 seconds ago.
So it picks up our second sword, which is now a logical means of accessing Aghanim Tower. So despite the cape being on the Desert Torch, we are not actually boots locked to get into Aghanim anymore.
Oh, I must have just got connection back. Was there a sword in somewhere?
There's a sword at the Old Man.
Oh, yeah, very nice. Okay. That's a pretty funky path there that Ben has taken there. And I think he's going to be finding his second sword here quite quickly.
Absolutely, and he will not have any way to progress further in the mountain, so Aghanim?
Yeah, that sounds like that's going to be the case now, right? I mean, the only thing we haven't checked is Zora? Is that right?
That sounds correct to me. I cannot think of anything overworld that we have missed. We have the bottle, we have flippers.
And I don't know if we'll see these runners farm rupees to go to Zora just to skip Aghanim. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they would much rather just take the highly likely gamble that through Aghanim is going to be their Dark World access. Then again, we don't have the Moon Pearl yet, do we?
No, we do not. So it's actually kind of interesting how we would get that Moon Pearl. I mean, what is it, the pyramid pretty much at this point?
Yeah, that's the only thing that's accessible in the Dark World from here, right? It's got to be...
Well, I mean, they gotta be realizing this by now, right? Also, if this was Master Sword percent, they were actually pretty close together here.
Wow. So, it kind of feels like a 50-50, right? Is Pearl on the ledge, or is it at Zora?
So, like a metaphysical question for you folks in chat. Do you take the 5-minute guaranteed time waste if it's wrong? Or do you... I mean, this is a weird situation.
Buane is farming rupees.
And that's a lot of rupees to farm.
That is a lot. Yeah, because he didn't do Houlihan, and I don't think he did the Rupee Room in Eastern either.
Yeah, and the Houlihan setup's a lot more annoying if you have flippers. We saw Ben put it on display, but you had to use a bomb in his situation. I'm not even sure on that setup either.
And Ben is going right to Aghanim, so we will be seeing both options, actually. Very nice. Well, one of these has to be right.
Yeah, and the other person will eventually make the same decision. So, I mean, I guess in Ben's situation, he could potentially be 5 minutes ahead. He could potentially be 10 minutes ahead if this rupees leads to nothing.
It's hard to say. If I had the Moon Pearl already, I would absolutely 100% go do Aghanim right now. But Buane gets to about 380 and decides to cancel it off. Did he see... Oh, he's got a Houlihan, of course. That makes a lot of sense. He was right next to the rupee, the best rupee farming spot he had, so you might as well get what you need and then go do Houlihan rather than doing Houlihan first.
And this definitely makes the decision to farm rupees a lot more appealing. I'm glad to see that. Yeah, we are gambling on one Zora item or one pyramid item, so I mean, at the end of the day, it is 50-50, just like Mikan said.
Or maybe it's both, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe the hook shot is on the ledge, and then the Moon Pearl is on Zora, and then that might even it out a bit, because that might put the Moon Pearl over on East Death, or that might put something important over on East Death Mountain, but it might lead him away from the Pearl from Zora.
I know, though, what we haven't talked about is just how easy these pendant requirements are for dungeons, and what that could mean for the pedestal.
Yeah, that's true. We've got access to 2 pendants already, and we're, just the Moon Pearl and a hammer away from getting the last one that we know is over in Palace of Darkness.
So I guess that would be the logic for pedestal at this point, is simply those 2 things. Well, of course, we're also assuming some way to get up the mountain, but I'm sure we'll find that by the time we get both of those things anyway.
Yeah, I would assume so. Mountain access usually east of mountain access usually comes pretty quick in my experience, though it's not always the case. Sometimes I don't get Death Mountain access until, I already have the mitts or something like that. And then suddenly you get all those items on East Death Mountain at the same time, which is pretty crazy if you can route all that in together.
Yeah, you can save a ton of time doing that. I definitely think it's of note and kind of interesting that both of our runners are heading in different directions as far as verticality go within Hyrule Castle, despite literally only having 2 layers in the game's design anyway.
I'm curious as to why Buane decided to go farm rupees for Zora, do Houlihan to get all the needed rupees, and then go do this. If I was doing this, like if I was doing the castle basement, I would, with means of, going to Aghanim immediately after, I would just death warp from here and then go up Aghanim, right? I would probably go check out Zora first before this, but I don't know.
It kind of seems to me like he had just remembered that escape was available to him after he had started farming.
With entirely likely too. That's also something I have done. Just completely forgotten about escape.
Well, I mean, these
It can be
runners are
kinda
so
hard,
good.
It can be definitely weird to remember escape exists in open mode because you're just so used to getting it automatically done, right? So it's kind of weird to have to like remember to go do it at a later time. But anyway, we are going to see Zora anyway, so that's really good. I'm excited to see. I think we might see the pyramid item first though.
Yeah, at this rate, the Saginaw fight's pretty much done. I think he's got 1, maybe 2 more hits to go. But then again, I mean, my name's not, Scrivo getting 15 of those in a row, but thankfully the RNG is constant between 2 runners of the same seed.
Maybe he just really wants to save his fairy. Oh, it's gonna be pretty close here. We'll get the ledge item just barely before we see our crystal check here. I saw a 5 up at Skullwoods.
It was too fast.
Let me check on the restream here.
Also, we do have a bunny spray, which is pretty excellent looking.
It is the Moon Pearl on the pyramid.
Oh, the boots!
And the boots! They were both right!
Oh, no! Alright, so if you were to actually make the commitment to the Zora play initially, you would have got boots, which would have led you to Cape, which would have led you to Aghanim, even if you didn't have your second sword.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like such a pain in the butt, dude.
The multiplicity of the Aghanim in this seed is just horrendous.
I will have to say that I think if you have to go to Aghanim, it kind of feels like both the sword and the Master Sword and the cape are available together, right? That might just be extreme confirmation vibes, but it just seems like both of them are available rather than just, just the Master Sword. More often than not. That might be completely wrong, but that's how I feel it is. We did actually see the 6th crystal was at Swamp Palace, so Swamp Palace and Skullwoods are 5-6.
Okay, well, it's good to have that confirmation. Interesting thing, though, is you gotta kind of wonder if Aghanim was the right play. That was available somewhat early, depending on how we routed, depending on how we picked up rupees. So if one of these 2 decided really early on, hey, I'm gonna get those 500 rupees, Houlihan my way through it, they could potentially be pretty ahead right now.
Oh man. If the bumper ledge happens to have an item, that could be pretty big. It might be quite a while before Ben heads all the way up there to get that. Is probably going to hope to be able to combine it with Catfish later on, but of course we have no idea where the mirror is.
Yeah, and I'm sure Ben right now really wishes he had that mirror.
Yeah, I did see him let go his fairy in the middle of the hedge maze. Probably going to Death Warp here. I would imagine that would be the only reason to let it go. So he's probably just setting up, now rather than having to worry about it later on, where it might accidentally fly into him while he's trying to die on something.
Yeah, and while this dungeon's not terribly difficult with this equipment, I mean, this is pretty similar to kind of your NMG loadout, so to speak. Certainly wouldn't want to give up the safety for nothing, so it seems pretty intentional, like you mentioned. Buane is heading up the tower now.
Yeah, I do find it a little interesting that he didn't check Bonk Rocks, did he?
No, there were no boots locations checked.
I find it a little interesting that he got the boots and then didn't check the Bonk Rocks before committing to Aghanim, because Bonkrox could have easily, in that situation, had the other gloves or the hammer. Well,
Perhaps.
I guess that wouldn't have been the Moon Pearl though.
Yeah, that's true. And perhaps the thought was, there's so many things pointing to Aghanim, I just gotta do it.
Oh yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that, but I don't know.
But it'll be a pretty straightforward progression from here. Buane will have the option to go towards Catfish if he wants to, but Titan's Mitts being here in Palace of Darkness, this seems to be the place to be.
Been setting up that door thwarp quite long ago. Finally coming to fruition here. So we take a desk so we can check out the rest of Palace of Darkness, minus the boss. We can't check the boss without the hammer. Those mitts give us a lot more, well, I guess not a lot more access to Dark World stuff. We still don't have access to East Death Mountain or, the Mire area or anything like that. We could go into Ice Palace.
Yeah, Ice Palace becomes a thing, Thieves Town and Skull Woods, although we can't do the back half without the Fire Rod. But, I mean, we can at least get around to a few places, and there's plenty of item locations opened up because of that.
Yeah, we might have to see a hammerless Thieves Town, kind of a gamble, I guess you could call it, soon. I definitely don't like doing it, and without the mirror, I don't know about checking just the first 4 and leaving, but I might be coming up here pretty soon after finishing up Pod.
Yeah, that can be a really frustrating and time-intensive place to go. We do see Ben here picking up a bunch of rupees on his way through Palace of Darkness, wisely remembering that there are plenty in this room to grab. And without having the mirror, you kind of have really no other choice but to go this way anyway. Interestingly enough, not getting the full 500.
It's close enough. Though he will be spending quite a bit of it here coming up in the Village of Outcasts once he actually makes it there. The 30 for the chess game, and then 80 for the big game if he decides to go all the way down there.
So for those of you who maybe walked away for a minute and are kind of trying to figure out what's going on here, we just had big revelations a few minutes ago with Boots being at Zora and Moon Pearl being at the Pyramid, and this kind of opened up the seed. We also find Titan's Mitts here in Palace of Darkness, so I feel like the routes have a lot of potential to diverge yet again.
Yeah, they definitely do. It's hard to stray away from going straight to the Western Dark World right now. It's just so, lucrative over there. I don't know if we'll see that. Well, I guess that's really the only other place they have right now, I guess, right? I mean, I guess I could go all the way up to Catfish, but
Yeah, nobody really wants to do that, particularly not without the mirror. And the unfortunate bit for Ben is that he may put it off until he has a mirror, which would actually really slow him down without those boots. So every, moment that he delays that, Buane is picking up some time per room.
This will allow Buane to check out both the Von Crocs and King's Tomb together once he grabs the mitts here in Pod. So, lucky routing.
And of course, could do Lumberjack if that ended up being important. I don't think anybody checked that.
Yeah, that's true. Might just get a blind check of it, huh?
I've seen gutsier things, and pedestals checked without books. I mean, I wouldn't put it past anybody in this game.
Alright, into the Village of Outcasts we go. Are we going to see any of Skull Woods right now? I don't know if we will. We are. Okay. Whatever, that's fine.
Well, Skull Woods has a bit of a history of having a treasure trove of items despite being only 2 item locations out of the total, pool of items in this dungeon, and potentially having some of them locked behind the fire rod. It was kind of a relic of older versions that you would always seem to find something here, but a lot of people will check it because it's pretty quick.
It's basically overworld, right? It doesn't take too long for only 2 locations, and it's hard to skip it, especially when you don't have... Hey, there's rupees.
Well, ain't that just something?
Especially when you don't have, the hammer to make Thieves Town more attractive situation, or, I don't know, the flute to get back here quickly, but I don't know about that. We will be finding it eventually, but...
Yeah, so that does make one of the two items. Looks like Buane here did his Death Warp in Palace of Darkness as well. So Ben here has a key, still doesn't have that last item. Will still continue on to check everything he can. Which I believe is just the vanilla big key chest.
Yeah, that's all we've got without the fire rod right now. Just happens to be a big key. We'll see quite another. We'll see yet another dip into the dungeon, just to grab that one.
I feel like Fire Rod would be funny.
It would be a pretty convenient time to find it.
Yo, stuck mummy.
Very nice.
Sometimes the game's just being a bro, and that's twice today for Ben. Interesting thing about the room that Ben's in, which has a vanilla big key right now, the enemy spawn locations in that room are completely random. One of the only rooms in the game that has true RNG in that sense.
Is it RNG or did they just start moving while you're in the previous room?
No, I believe the actual locations they spawn in are the only random placements. Well, not... Maybe there's like one other room. I can't think of what it was, but it's one of the only ones that's like that.
Huh. Nice.
We do get to see our first bomb jump of the run, though. Ben taking advantage of a pretty nice lineup there. Not even doing a boot setup because he doesn't have them. So he had to be within 2 pixels of the ledge there to pull that off.
Yeah, and he set that up pretty quickly too, so it's definitely something he's practiced a lot. And we did see that the other item in Skullwoods is Fire Rod locked. We will probably find that eventually, the item that is, because Skullwoods is a crystal, and we'll likely head back there almost maybe as soon as we can. Hey, there's the hook shot, which Buane will be able to get because he knows where the boots are and the cape is.
Yeah, ain't that a kick in the head, so...
Oh my.
The boots, though, being at Zora and the cape being at Desert Torch, both of them know where the cape is. Only Buane has the knowledge of the boots. And Ben did just pick up extra rupees for that, too.
I hope... Oh, nice tempered sword. I really hope... Okay, it's the Bugman in King's Tomb. Quit interrupting me, guys. I'm trying to talk.
The king like butterflies.
I really hope that Ben will make his way over to Zora soon. I kind of really hope that he finds the mirror here soon, because that might lead him over there sooner rather than later, being able to combine Catfish with that. Hopefully, that hook shot is going to lock out access to the hammer, because if that was the case, then that hookshot will be the only access we have to East Death Mountain, which will limit the locations that Ben can check, which means that he'll be able to get to Zora sooner, right?
Yeah, so the game could, inevitably end up steering him in the right spot. We do see Buane checking the lumberjack item, which is, as we mentioned before, a blind check. Oh, 2 slashes for the 20.
I don't blame him. And I think in this situation, it's kind of rare to actually be coming this way with the boots and already having Aghanim defeated and not having, already checked it. So it makes sense to blind check it, which is...
Well, you always want that to pay off
one.
because you want to feel like you made a gigantic intelligent move.
I've definitely done that one before just for Big 20, so I don't blame him. It's pretty funny. It's a funny 20.
Fair enough, and there were sword slashes, just 2. You can't really spend a lot of time indulging the rage moments because, money on the line. Looks like Ben wants a death warp here.
Yeah, he was content with just the first 4 chests here in Thieves Town. We're going to be getting out of here, heading down to Hype Cave, or the so-called Hype Cave, that is.
Yeah, and also I've noticed, maybe you did mention it, I just didn't catch it, we did get a 3rd mail upgrade in Thieves Town, so Ben is pretty hardy right now, not really looking to get hurt too much with his red sword and red suit.
We have a lot of survivability for this early on in the seed. They had 11 hearts, like, almost before entering Dark World, right? It was crazy. Never seen that much health, and blue mail as well. I mean, they had a fairy too, but we both saw... Everyone saw what happened to those fairies.
Yeah, that didn't last long. And so, I really don't see, death being that much of an issue in this run, but execution and time loss, that may actually be more relevant than anything. We mentioned before the boots advantage for Buane, and then of course, Ben does have a sword advantage until just now. So yeah, I mean, kind of wondering when Ben's gonna find these boots and whether or not it'll be too late.
Ben always digs out an M. I don't know what it's for, but it's always an M. He picks up the rock to make sure the M is complete.
Gotta love that artistry. Putting some purpose behind the dig game, and of course it's a completely random amount, of digs that you have to do, and it's the same amount for both runners. It's set per seed, so if you're probably gonna have more than 10 most of them. It makes sense to kind of have some fun with it.
I did like how Buane saw the hook shot up there and did a couple like excited taps of his A button. You could see the little dust kicking up, like he was about to dash. Like, ooh, I can get that.
Yeah, it's one really nice thing about A Link to the Past is it's very expressive in its movement. You can kind of do little things that set you apart from other runners, and that's a good example of one. Stumpy here, though.
Free as heck hammer, just sitting right there. Might tempt him to go back to Thieves Town to finish it off.
Petition to rename him Billy Mays. Be like, Billy Mays here. I heard you want to get to the east side of Dark World. Well, wait, there's more.
But wait.
And the east side of Dark World might have some for us, but Ben's definitely going to stop at the Hype Cave, or the once properly known as Hype Cave. We'll see what it's like today.
With all the stuff we know where it's the location, like, the hammer and the hook shot and all that, I don't know if we're going to find anything too important here, though I've been proven wrong before.
Seems like par for the course, though. Blue bottle, not bad, though. But yeah, there's not much of value here. I guess one of the nicest things about that is we don't have half magic, and we haven't really had anything to recover magic with. That may become more relevant if we end up having to do Bombos Ice Palace, or if Fire Rod becomes a primary weapon for certain situations.
We did see Ben take the blacksmith on kind of the tour of the southern Dark World. Finally got to be turning him in here with the save and quit. We do have the hammer, so we'll be able to check the peg cave, actually, which you wouldn't have had access to before, so that's convenient. I'm kind of worried. I know I was talking about finding the mirror like being a good thing for Ben, but I'm kind of worried about him finding it now, because that'll send him to East Death Mountain anyway.
With Quake being in the back here of Thieves Town, he wasn't really missing much, not going back here yet, although Wayne could still find something in here, but you're absolutely right. Ben would end up spending a lot more time in the overworld if he finds mirrors soon. The $100 from the Smiths, interestingly enough, 10 times what you would pay them in vanilla to get that red sword you got in the C-shaped house. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering if mirror is going to be a big issue for this seed. We haven't found it from either of our runners, and we've explored a lot of the world.
Yeah, I mean, we still have like the entirety of East Death Mountain available to us, both light and dark. I just think it'd be a pretty scary find for Ben, because he's gonna need those boots, and that's a lot of extra stuff he's gonna check. There's the ice rod, so that won't be our annoying item today. That's a free one. So I didn't see if the big chest in Thieves Town has an item, but Buane not having the hammer is not gonna be able to check it. He doesn't have a key. Never mind. Okay, so it's going to be the small key.
Yeah, so it's locked behind its own door.
Yeah, which means that the hammer has to be before it, which is fine enough. It doesn't really come up that often, but very rarely you could use that to help you locate the hammer.
Yeah, the logic of exclusion, very important. And it's really hard in this particular setting to be consistent with that kind of thinking. Buane, though, putting on a clinic for how to kill blind the fast way. A nearly perfect fight.
Ice Rod and Quake in Thieves Town. Nothing immediately useful, but could potentially be two required items much later down the line.
Yeah, we certainly know we'll definitely need the Ice Rod at some point, but I mean, we may not be considering Turtle Rock for, who knows, well over half an hour. It depends on how the rest of this plays out now that we have that hammer. Palace of Darkness now completable. That is a green pendant.
Oh, jeez.
Wait a second. Did that just make pedestal in logic?
I believe it did, yeah. I'm worried that... I keep bringing this up. I don't want Vin to like miss out on these boots, but he's got a lot of extra stuff. He can go pull the pedestal if he wants before going back to Sora. I hope that doesn't happen. Do I sound biased? I might be.
I mean, it would be just a terrible thing that, I think chat may just be equally anguished about. I'm sure we would all be crying tears.
I'm sure
Of joy.
I'm sure no one wants to see these runners hold a pedestal. You guys are nuts.
Can you imagine the anxiety? Like, would you just glance over at SRL the second you realized that a pedestal was required? Like, I mean, nearly an hour into the race, you're like, how long did it take them to check this? They had the book the entire time.
Right. I guess that would be another reason that would be convenient to have the mirror, because they'll be able to check that along with Skull Woods, if needed. Well, if they can even. Maybe it's the fire rod, right?
Crazier things have happened. I've seen a Canis Samaria that's blocked a bunch of crazy things, and, another long shot consideration, what do we have for our 5-6 crystals? It was Skull Woods and Swamp Palace?
Yeah.
If a fire rod shows up, we know where that hook shot is. Maybe that could be some convoluted thing related to the pedestal, or I mean, to the pyramid fairy. Maybe there could be something there. So there's a lot of possibility left in the logic, and for as long as we are into this race, 51 minutes, this is actually kind of late in the race to be finding out some of these details.
Alright, Buane heading over to get his cape. He knows exactly where it is. Unfortunately, kind of have to take the long route back to desert here without that flute, but it's highly possible that this hookshot is going to block the flute. That's what it feels like.
And what Mikan is referring to is this randomizer sense you get when you've run a lot of seeds, and you just kind of feel like you kind of notice a pattern happen. I mean, obviously, like, randomizer is random, but sometimes your instincts serve you pretty well in this game.
Right. Sometimes you need 3 items, like 3 or 4 items to finish the seed, and it's like, okay, well, if I find one of them, it'll lead me to the other one, like in an item chain sense. And sometimes you'll just find all of them right next to each other. So, who knows? Who knows? Randomizer is pretty random. No one's gonna argue that.
Yeah, and Buane, having picked up his cape of fire protection here in Desert Palace, will be the first one to take the plunge and get in that hook shot, which kind of stacks onto his movement capabilities already.
Yeah, it's just... I know boots don't save as much time as some people might think. Like, it's a couple minutes, maybe a couple minutes over the course of, like, a whole race, but... minutes is pretty significant, honestly, in a race of this importance, so... The longer the time is between the 2 players having boots, it's just that much of a hurdle Vin's gonna have to cross. Not that it's like not surmountable or anything like that, but when you go into a top situation, it might just matter. Yikes! The purple chest not having anything.
And I think that's fair to say as far as boots difference goes. I mean, the difference does depend on, like, how long of separation there is between. But you look at, like, Buane here doing this item dash, certain strategies and certain consistent strategies that runners are likely to practice or put into effect more often, are much easier to pull off when you have those boots and the regularity of them. And then, of course, if the race ends up being a long time, or if the logic is making the boots significant, that just stacks on top of that as well.
No.
Ooh.
I thought he was going to Zora. I really did, but nope, we're going to Ice Palace. We can complete this dungeon.
And the spiral continues with Bombos, giving us the access past this freeze ore in the first room. Bombos is the only thing we can use to kill those, and also melt the cold stare shell. And with Tempered Sword, that's actually not that bad of a fight.
No, I don't think this will be any issue getting through. And honestly, the key layout here, if he knows the Ice Palace key logic, knowing which no, he can determine if it's actually hookshot locked, right? He can determine if, well, I mean, he knows where hookshot is, of course, but he can determine where, this might help him determine where the boots are. Is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, because you can definitely exclude it at a certain point, knowing that the hookshot is blocked by the boots. Being that the cape was on Desert Torch, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is turning into be a pretty long logic chain here.
Yeah, say if he finds like Fire Rod on Cold Stare, he will know that if Cold Stare was hookshot locked, he'll know that that Fire Rod won't lead to the boots in any capacity. I guess a more major example would be Samaria or the Flute, which would both unlock probably a good number of items each. He can exclude boots from those unlocks if Cold Stare happens to be hookshot locked indeed.
See, I couldn't picture myself making this kind of like moment-to-moment decision making for the logic under these like conditions. Yeah, you got. Oh, that's a gold sword for Buane.
Nice.
Keep in mind, folks, though, gold sword is definitely a damage upgrade. It's not as significant of one as tempered sword is in terms of the damage scaling in the game. While it will make certain kills faster, it's not a gigantic time save at all. Yeah, so I mean, under pressure, these runners make some pretty difficult, calculated decisions, and jumping into Ice Palace when you know that there's certain items kind of blocking your overall progression, knowing that you don't have Fire Rod or half magic. Obviously, he doesn't need half magic with Bombos, but those are some bold decisions to make.
Yeah, luckily, I think he came in with a full magic, and that is enough to completely clear the dungeon with not having to refill your magic at all. And of course, Tempered Sword, you said, gonna make the fight almost trivial.
And to those of you asking in chat, you can use bomb jumps to get around and sequence break past where the hookshot is normally required.
Yeah, we definitely don't need hookshot to finish this dungeon. He'll be able to finish it and check all the items anyway, but knowing how the item placement wanted you to finish it can help you determine some things if you find some things later on that were locked behind items you don't have.
And we'll get to see one of those bomb jumps in that particular room right now from Ben. This one's actually easier than it looks, although the setup for the bottom pixel there can be kind of annoying if those jellies are kind of in your way. Buane did also check the tablet at the top of the mountain, getting just a big 20. Checking a couple of different locations potentially that were a bit of a time loss.
Yeah, without the mirror, it's kind of difficult to route this because you don't want to hop into the Dark World and then have no way back to come all the way over here to check these. He's going to have to finish up Hera and walk all the way back to the Turtle Rock entrance, which we will be able to see if we have the medallion for that already.
Yeah, and a decent chance that we do. I mean, it could be Ether, but, it's better odds than not. Speaking of pixel lineups for bomb jumps, Buane's going to put another bomb jump on display potentially, or no? Possibly.
That was the second item there. Just some bombs and a small shield in Tower of Hera.
Oh, right. So he's excluded anything from being on the other location. Smart. And then we did get to see a really nice bumper skip as well, where it looked like he dashed right through it, but there's a very specific line you can dash across there. With Gold Sword, though, this is a pretty trivial fight.
Yeah, just 2 slashes is all it takes to take this guy out. I guess you can even slash and poke if you really wanted to.
I mean, with that shield we just picked up, we're invincible, right?
Oh yeah, it's the best shield.
It will block arrows. Fireballs from Zora's not so much. We need another upgrade for that. Well, Ben's pretty much finished Ice Palace. He's got this chest, which is another 300 rupees to add insult to Zora misery.
I hope it reminds him to go to Zora. I really do.
That would be the cash money decision here.
Though he's going to be running out of locations here fairly shortly. Other than, I don't know if Helmasaur has an item. I guess he has the green pendant, so technically he does have an item. That's kind of a long haul to make. I'm not sure about that one.
But I mean, left with nothing else to do, and without, I mean, if you really want to isolate the Zora and Catfish play, it's a long way about doing it, but that is one thing that he may put off to the very end. Also, a nice medallion sync here.
Alright, it is indeed Quake, so both runners have that already, but we don't have Samaria to get in there. If I had Samaria right now, I would absolutely go and Turtle Rock, right? Because there's not much you can check, probably, without Fire Rod anyway.
Yeah, and you could continue on the dungeon if the key location is perfect, but, you know, generally speaking, not worth it. You know, or you don't have to worry too much about whether or not the check's going to take you a lot of time if you have Mirror, for example, or just choose to save and quit. But we do get to see Hookshot Cave here. Buane's going to find that Fire Rod.
Fire Rod. We can fully clear... And the Mirror. All right, that's good. That's good for Ben, honestly, that it's there. But yeah, that's 2 needed items right next to each other.
I mean, the Mirror, and the Fire Rod, so Swamp, or not Swamp, well, Swamp actually is open, and so is Skull Woods to complete, so that's gigantic.
That leaves just the Flute we're hunting for, right? And potentially Ether, though we already have 2 medallions already, it feels unlikely.
Yeah, so we do have Misery Mire that we have to figure out. We've seen Ice Palace, Skull Woods. This is getting to be a pretty straightforward race here.
Yeah, there's a lot of crystals to go kind of plow through right now. We can do everything except Mire.
Hey, you know, though, Ben is getting his boots here, so that's pretty critical for him. He's definitely spent more time in Ice Palace, but, I mean, let's just say that we don't find that flute for a little while. Wayne may end up full clearing Ice Palace as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think if I was in a situation where I only needed 1 item, I think, and I had so many crystals to clear, I would absolutely just go clear Crystal Dungeon after Crystal Dungeon, hoping to find that on the way, right? Because you gotta do it anyway. Alright, Ben finally gets the boots. Holy moly. He's got a bit of ground to make up, I feel, though he's already checked a bunch of stuff. There's not, like... He's gonna know exactly kind of where to go.
Well, I mean, it only took him about an hour, but now he can finally get this, you know, race off to a running start. And with that, he'll head to King's Tomb, one of the first boots locked locations that he can check. He does, of course, know where the hookshot and the cape are, but might as well check these since he doesn't have the mirror yet.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna make very rapid progress, because after getting the hookshot, well, he might go do Thieves Town before going to grab the hookshot, actually, now that he's... Oh wait, he's already done Thieves Town. What am I talking about? Never mind. He'll probably... Like, East F Mountain is... It's the obvious place to go after finding the hookshot, right? So he'll very quickly get those items that Buane has just picked up. So I don't... He's gonna be, I guess, behind in that sense a little bit, but of course, as you said earlier, it depends on where this flute is, because if that gets to be, you know, outside of a crystal dungeon somewhere, it could even up.
Yeah, I mean, Miss Sword King, maybe? That would be pretty annoying.
I believe Helmasaur has his item. Yeah, Helmasaur has his item. He'll have the green pendant item, and then potentially allow the pedestal pull as well.
There's some pretty interesting questions still unanswered by that single item.
Alright, going hopping into the back of Skull Woods here. We haven't seen this. There is one item back here still, so Mothula might have it, or the one chest under the thing here. We'll be able to actually check the pedestal after this as well.
Well, Buane's taking care of business here in Skull Woods like a moth to the flame, pretty much going right for that item. Of course, Buane is going to kill the boss Mothula here first, before checking that item in the back of the maze, as this is a little faster to do if you have to already kill him for the crystal anyway.
Yep, and it works out because after the bridge, after the chest under the bridge, you would mirror, and then mirror immediately outside of the thing anyway. But Mothula did have the item, so we're not going to be going back in.
Yeah, so it's nice to be able to do those things at the same time. 50-50 chance it works out that way. You may as well. Of course, somebody who is only going to the item in a pendant dungeon may end up, you know, winning out on that trade. But generally speaking, most situations call for this decision. So Buane ended up making the right call there.
Yeah, it's possible for that chest under the bridge to, like, be your first sword or something like that leads to a sword, which you couldn't be able to do if you Oh, well, it's not a pedestal.
Yeah, Buane bringing a kind of anticlimactic finish to that dream. However, there are plenty of trolls still possible. Also, fun fact, since we are talking about Mothula and we have been, Gold Sword typically in the original game didn't work, didn't do damage. You weren't expected to have it. That was actually patched in Randomizer. So I believe Shady Force Games in chat was mentioning that it was treated like Tempered Sword damage. Essentially, the fact that you can do damage besides poking with it is... You can thank Rando Devs for that.
Yeah, I believe Gold Sword just is Tempered Sword in that fight alone. In the vanilla game, you could get by it by doing pokes with the Gold Sword, since that lowers your damage class by 1, but it's, yeah, super annoying to have to actually do that.
And that being the weird thing is that Spikes, for whatever reason, in that fight share the same damage class as Gold Sword in vanilla, which is weird coding stuff in the background. I'm so glad we have devs that actually do this stuff, because it's a lot easier to talk about the game and not how it works. That being said, though, it's pretty easy to get into, but being as good as these guys takes dedication.
Yeah, this is years in the making here. The practice here is pretty intense. Not only do you have to know how to play the game, but, you know, kind of all the locations that you wouldn't see in a typical game, a typical playthrough of the game, or how items kind of chain together, and all the small nuances of you can get here with this, but you can also use this or this combination. It's a game in and of itself.
Yeah, and then of course you have everything on top of that with trying to play against your opponent and thinking about what they may do. So I'm always in constant awe when I'm watching these races. I'm kind of curious at this point, though. We're running out of locations. Swamp Palace seems to have something. We don't have Samaria yet.
Yeah, that's feeling pretty likely, huh? We don't really have too much else. Well, I mean, for us, we don't really have too much else. Of course, Buane still has Ice Palace, but it looks like Swamp will be the play of the day right now.
Yeah, and of course, we're speaking from the combined knowledge of watching both racers. These racers don't know what each other's done, so you're going to see Ben here, of course, doing Paradox Cave, Buane heading towards, the Cave 45, as we like to call it in the community, based on a random map of Hyrule. But this is a location previously unavailable to him. Just going to be a final bomb capacity upgrade.
Ben, unfortunately, slipping right off that thing, didn't get the bomb jump across, so it's just gonna walk out. Might just use the portal down here, or no, he doesn't have the mirror. He's gonna go right back up, of course.
Definitely a nifty time save possibility there, though, and you're gonna spend the same amount of time if you fail it anyway. So always worth trying.
I think Buane is trying to find the flute before going to Swamp Palace, so he doesn't have to, you know, clear the whole dungeon, which I think this makes sense. These are fairly fast checks, though of course they did not pay off.
Really gotta love the big 20s on both tablets today.
The gods are cheap today.
And Ben's about to find out at the same time. They may not know where each other are, but they seem to have similar instincts right now. Alright, so we found out the purple chest was also money. That does pretty much eliminate our overworld checks with the well, we can't do magic bats, so yeah, we've pretty much cleared it all.
Other than in overworld, maybe the graveyard ledge and catfish.
Oh, and Spike Cave.
And Spike Cave, yes.
Yeah, so we're down to only a few really far one-off, opportunities, and at this point, I gotta wonder who's gonna find this flute and swamp first. I mean, Buane seems to have that edge.
Oh, we need Samaria too, don't we? I've been talking about where, flute's the last item we need, but of course we still need that red cane, huh?
Yeah, that's true. And of course we're gonna need it in, Misery Mire anyway. Which we could find it in Misery Mire. That's a perfectly valid place to find it. And Randomizer being the vanilla location originally.
It's scary. Samaria and Mire it's pretty scary, especially when it's a crystal dungeon, because you don't want to go in there. It takes a while to get all the way back, right? Because you have to that front room feels like it takes a good chunk of time, though I guess it doesn't really. It's just a single room, but
Well, that's another thing that you practice a lot in NMG is Meyer 2. You know, you have to use a combination of sword beams, fire rod, anything you can to try and get the fast cycle on that. And if you don't, and you have to double dip, I mean, let's just say you get it the first and second time, you're still spending a lot of time.
Randomizer. I guess Meyer also just takes a long time searching for items, so if you already have Samaria going in there, you could potentially just kind of gamble on Vitreous having an item, and suddenly it doesn't take that long to do that. I guess depending on the big key location, which can be just as awful, because we are going to need that regardless. Alright, down goes Moldorm for Ben. We are heading on to East Death Mountain. He'll be able to find his mirror and Fire Rod. And no, not do Turtle Rock. We just talked about this. Then on Samaria.
Yeah, but probably thinking about it on the way there since we haven't found those two items yet, and we'll definitely be shocked to find both that mirror and, of course, the fire at the same time. Which, looking at dungeon progression here, almost tied up in that regard. I mean, Pedestal we found out was worthless, so Eastern doesn't matter for Buane. Yeah, this is drawing pretty close already.
Yeah, the only real advantage Buane has here is just the time it takes to, I guess, clear East Death Mountain, or the dark part. And then... Ooh, that's a really unfortunate Dead Rock location. Glad he stopped the dash there. And,
That's like a killer instinct.
Yeah, and then have a Swamp Palace done as well. More 300 rupees, and more health.
Yeah, so Buane's coming up empty so far. I believe he dove straight to the back, is that right?
Yeah, that's what I saw. And it makes a lot of sense, too. At least I feel like it does. Hey!
That must be Samaria.
Yes, I believe that is how the quote goes. Alright,
Perhaps
so
it's game.
Perhaps it might be Samaria. We are... I think Turtle Rock might be the next play after this. Maybe Ice Palace for Buane. Turtle Rock just feels right to me. I don't know. I like going into Turtle Rock when I can, because it just feels like it's an extreme... Look at this. Hold on. Okay, that was a pretty good first half of the phase of Argus. Even getting some of that strategy is pretty crazy.
Yeah, in order to pull off a zero cycle, you have to do both a hook dash, which is an item dash with a hook shot out, so A and Y simultaneously, and you have to have your sword outstretched the entire time. And on top of that, you have to keep pumping item dashes perfectly for every single puff and reposition to not get hit by them. It's ridiculously difficult, and doesn't save a lot of time, but it's really sweet to see.
It definitely is very fancy to see. I love just watching like the puffs just flow towards Link and immediately die. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's always hype to see an attempt because it can definitely go sideways. Not a lot of risk of death here, but still, I mean, time loss. You don't want that. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. If you guys are enjoying this race, and yeah, I'm enjoying this. These guys are amazing. Highly recommend you give these two runners, Ben or ajneb174 and Buane, a follow here on Twitch. Show them your love because they're putting on a fantastic show for us.
Yep, our month-long qualifier process has kind of gone down to this. We have our top 8 racers here. We'll be seeing one race from each of the 4 groups today, actually. So definitely, if you're enjoying watching this, stay tuned. We're going to be having all the important races today. I guess they'll all be first of 3 matches, so it won't be like do or die for any of them. And here's our first Spike Cave check. It's not the flute.
It's only the biggest of 20s.
Oh yes, the most well-protected Big 20 in the game.
Yeah, really stepping on needles and glass in order to make it through there. That seemed like a very painful experience. But, you know, like you mentioned before just a moment ago, how, you know, we have so much randomizer slated in front of us. Folks, I mean, settle in, order a pizza, you know, get something to drink or your favorite preferred beverage, whether that's adult or otherwise. You got lots of money. There you go.
Alright, Buane into Turtle Rock. Is gonna hope... Well, all we need is the flute now for him. Yeah, that's all he needs, right? It's just the flute. So... hopefully it's here, and he'll be able to go mode Ice Palace, which is probably what he's hoping to do. I definitely like going into Turok. I think I was talking about this earlier, and then Samaria happened. I like going into Turok as soon as I can, because it's not too much different than a go mode Turtle Rock. There's 5 items, and it feels so restricted that it almost feels like you have to get all the items, and then what am I trying to say here?
The overall time commitment's not that much different is kind of what we're getting at.
Yeah, it just feels so restricted that you're gonna, if you end up finding, I guess they didn't find all the items to access Turtle Rock early. Like, if I find them within the first, like, I don't know, 40 minutes or so, I'm thinking, yeah, there's got to be something in Turtle Rock. They wouldn't have given me all this to go here this early, but yeah, I guess it's been a little longer than that, huh?
Fair enough.
A second trip up the Death Mountain isn't the worst thing. So yeah, it's not that bad.
You know, we've got some folks in chat who are finding all of the worst possible configurations, or at least imagining them, and Shovel and Chomp Room is making that seem a little
I was
possible.
gonna ask, was that one of them? Was fetch quest items possibly included in there?
Well, I think it started with Mushroom, but you know what? I mean, 1-for-1 item trades. You know, I don't know if I dig this situation where you may have to, you know, try and dig your way out of being, you know, a double dip in this dungeon, whether you're doing that early on in the dungeon or doing it at the end of the dungeon. You find out you don't have the item.
Yeah, you nailed that pun in spades, let me tell you.
Well, we're gonna have to go underground after that, unfortunately, but Wayne's showing us a pretty funny bunny sprite, which is actually the regular Link sprite, because he's playing as Darkling.
Chat didn't like that. They're gonna bury us after this.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm shooting for new highs and new lows when it comes to comedy, but this one was pretty much subterranean today. Well, Ben's gonna have.
I ran out, dude. I ran out. That's enough.
Well, his hopes are gonna drop down into a hole after reading that pedestal, as he finds out a little bit of love is gonna, you know, be the death of him and put him under.
Well, it's Swamp Palace for Ben. Alright, so that'll get him Samaria and hopefully drive him to Turtle Rock, where I'm still thinking we might find the flute. I don't know. I mean, maybe Catfish has it this whole time.
Well, we're not going to spare any locations, though. Buane's absolutely checking this Mimic Cave, and, I mean, how tense is this if you're in this situation? You know that you need just that flute.
I think I would start getting, of course, you'd always be tense, because you always have to think you're behind, right? It's kind of how it feels. But I think I would start getting more tense after I've cleared every crystal dungeon and still don't have it. That would be the scariest part. Like, what dumb route did my opponent do that actually worked out, right?
Yeah, and it's not like the qualifier where you have, like, you know, potentially 5 people who could finish before you, and it's not like, well, I mean, even 2 or 3 people finish before you, and it's not necessarily the end of everything. No, it's head-to-head. I mean, you see that dot done, it's over. Of course, this is a best-of-3 series, though, just to clarify.
Yeah. Even if it isn't here, I think Buane will still be ahead-ish. I think both the racers have kind of orphaned the same locations in, like, Graveyard Ledge and Catfish. So he'll definitely get a head start on that. I don't think Ben has really any overworld advantage, if that happens to be where our hunt goes to. I guess Buane still has to do Ice Palace. That'll probably be where he goes next, but Ben has to do all of Swamp, right? Did Buane skip on the left side of Swamp?
I don't think he went back for that.
I don't think he went back, yeah.
He may have excluded it, though, from dungeon items. I don't think he would have, though.
I want to say... Okay, well, it's right there.
Rendered moot the flute in Turtle Rock on the Laser Bridge. That's exceptional. If we had another shield, we would have actually had the logical progression to get that item, too.
Well, they got the cave, so whatever.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, with that, Buane at 1 hour and 19 minutes and change, I believe, is the first one to enter potential foe mode. We still don't know that medallion.
Oh, that's true. Ether could definitely still be the required medallion. If it is, we have 3 very quick item checks in the mire area, being the shed and the checkerboard cave. So it's pretty likely, I feel, that it'll be there. We've cleared out all of the pendant dungeons pretty much, right?
Yeah, except Helmasaur King could still be that guy.
Buane had
Potentially?
yeah, maybe. Buane had a little trouble there with that fire rod shot. Luckily, did take him out with just a small bit to spare.
I mean, maybe Sharky Dabadoo in Eastern Palace area from Helmasaur King could potentially have something. Who knows? To answer the question in chat, 3 medallions could potentially be required in a seed. If you couldn't get Fire Rod before Ice Palace, you could require the other 2 medallions for the dungeons. That's possible.
Yeah, we saw a Bombos Ice Palace from Ben just earlier. We finished up the dungeon here. Buane having the fire rod won't have to take the time to do all that, cutscene and all. So thankfully that'll be faster for him.
You know, he is rewarded for that exceptionally difficult boss fight, of course, with the best meringue. Gotta love that.
Ooh.
And by that, of course, I mean the blue boomerang, the only one that matters. I'm very opinionated on this subject.
I would agree with you. I'm a big fan of it myself.
Hey, it's all about saving the frames, right? This isn't Metroid.
Alright, Ben will be picking up the Camus here very shortly as Buane will activate the flute, and we will find out very shortly if we actually still need to go hunt for Ether or not. The medallion requirements for the dungeons are actually one of the first things randomized in the whenever a seed is made. So it's highly potential that, or it's highly likely that we already have it, right? We're already sitting at the 66 point whatever % chance that we already have it.
Yeah, it's certainly much more favorable to check it than to, you know, hold out hope and find the ether beforehand. However, if you're a Waller's Prime fan out there and you love the bird toss, you know, there's still a chance. We're about to find out, though.
Yep.
Was that quick?
That was indeed quick. We are good to go. All right.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we're good to go. Ben here showing off the.
Oh!
Jeez, that was pretty close.
That was really close to zero cycle.
And a very nice second there, the second part of it. Unfortunately, Argus had just started his little spin cycle, so it didn't quite, you know, skip as much as he wanted, but it was very nice follow-up there from the first.
Well, with the spin cycle in mind, he will have to leave that boss out to dry for a moment before he can finish him off, and the One-Eyed Pirate King Argus is vanquished. So Ben here also closing in on his total dungeon requirements. He still needs that flute, though, and we know he's got a long way to go to get that turtle rock.
Yeah, but I imagine this will be it'll be his first place to go. There's nowhere else really, like, convenient for him to check, so we're going to be going right there. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Buane just has kind of too big a lead right now. Of course, we can things can always change. Like we've seen plenty of races come down to maybe get deaths in Ganon's tower or a fall after beating Ganon, but outside of that, Buane is looking pretty good right now.
I mean, Ganon's tower despawn, definitely something that's happened in Randomizer. We hope that never happens to anybody, but it is entertaining, Parisian player.
Oh, I did like the block of that fireball from behind. It's always really silly when that happens.
Yeah, way to use the shield that you actually picked up in Turtle Rock. Fireball is probably the most annoying projectile to deal with in the game, in my opinion. BMO statue is pretty predictable. But so Fire Shield, in my opinion, is actually the best shield.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like... I don't know, I think the reverse sprite of the mirror shield is pretty fancy. I like the texture on it. It looks like the back of those little pins. like the little clothespins, or not clothespins, but you know the little ones you put on your little lapel pins.
Yeah,
That's what the back of the mirror shield looks like. It looks like one of those.
I can't unsee that now. It's the badge that you just clip onto your shirt. It's a big badge though.
The mirror shield is actually just body armor pinned to his shirt.
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of fits with Ben's, you know, sprite choice, but
Oh god.
anywho, we get to see some very nice spooky action glitch being done here by Buane, which is a very complicated thing where you mess with the game's storage of altitude. It's hard to explain, but Buane does pull it off there. He won't be able to get the next one without picking up more magic, though.
Oops, I'm sorry. I guess I don't understand how the glitch works very well. I thought he had messed it up, but I guess you have to fire rod the anti-fairy dude.
Well, so it's all based on whatever you use to set the altitude, and you have to hit another sprite with it, so it won't actually do the... It changes the distance that the splash damage is in effect for, so if you line it up correctly, all you gotta do is just hit the right sprite at the right spot.
I see. It wasn't working because he was hitting the wall instead of the enemy.
Precisely, it doesn't do splash damage off the wall.
I see. Okay.
Very nice fast kill for Buane, though, taking advantage of his gold sword to just do straight damage boost strats, and that worked very well for him.
Yeah, the NMG strats on Vitreous are pretty scary, honestly. Taking damage from the pools just to get into a favorable position so you can spin as many eyes as you can as one.
It's a pretty satisfying fast kill to get, though, and it's one I recommend practicing with, like, the practice hack for those of you who aren't aware of it. Poor Little Pinkus in the NMG, or I guess greater ALTTP community, created a practice hack, kind of like the Super Metroid one, where you can pick individual rooms, practice individual sections, change your equipment. Really great resource if you're trying to get better at this game's execution.
Highly, highly recommended. It's super great. It won't help
to the
you.
Helposaur King bot, though. I can't find that link anymore now.
Oh, Helposaur King's great too.
Great naming.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. He's got a command list that just has a whole bunch of links to everything that he does, and it's actually pretty nice just to go through and see all of the different things that there's actually like videos and strategies for.
And if you're looking for resources for Randomizer in general, check out the Randomizer Discord. You can definitely find a million links there. Lots of people very passionately devoted to this community, and I'm very proud to say that. But so we are looking over retreaded steps here. Ben getting some like bro RNG today as well.
Oh, that was nice. Oh, that got Pokey barely nicked the corner of the Medusa head there, so it started flying off the other way. Oh god, boy, watch out!
Did he just not take damage from that?
He...
Oh, less than a quarter heart.
Oh yeah, red mail.
This game's weird sometimes. For example, those Stalfos that you just killed with a bomb, if one of them stood back up, they'd both become invincible even if one of them was knocked down. They share the same trigger for that, so if you're ever confused about why you can't kill them in that room if you mess up the fast strat, that's why. Just knock them both down.
Yeah, I think the flag that they are knocked down is just entirely based, is like set for the whole room rather than just individually. So that counts both of them as knocked down at the same time if they're knocked down.
You know, the game holds up pretty good for 26 years old, though. And I think that's a large reason why so many people love it. It's a very good classic. But as we're closing out some of these dungeons, this becomes a bit more of an execution race, and it's hard to ignore just how big of an advantage Buane really has here, having already done Misery Mire. I mean, that's a lot of time spent in that dungeon, even when it works fast.
Yeah, it really is. The big key hunt there can go on for quite a while, through the cutscene chest even, and Buane having a go mode Ice Palace here is just going to save him a minute or so alone.
Well, we saw the tempered fight from Ben early for Cold Stare when he jumped into Ice Palace without a lot of items that Buane has now. This should be a pretty cozy fight overall, and he's going to use the Fire Rod to be even faster.
Yep, 8 shots. This is... Oh, okay. It's gonna take all your magic, so if you don't miss any of them, don't accidentally get like a frame perfect shot to the right instead of up.
Yeah, that does actually happen.
Yeah.
Well, another backup too, if you're about to walk into that fight without full magic and you have full health though and no bombos, you can actually line up sword beam attacks with the fire rod shots, and it'll count for double if you want to save some magic just for the fight as well. Not commonly seen though. Most of the time, you don't have full health or you have the requisite items.
Yeah, there's 2 magics right before it, and then there's, I think, 3 in the room to the right where the crystal switch is, if you happen to have the small key to open it.
So it looks like our chat has decided to initiate their own version of a thing we like to play. While it's not official, care to tell them what we like to guess here coming into Ganon's Tower?
There are 22 locations in big old Ganon's Tower where the key likes to be, and this is probably my least favorite part of the randomizer, honestly.
I was going to say, this is
so many
starting to
races.
sort of formulaic, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, this is probably one of my... something about the randomizer I'm not a fan of, but I mean, it's randomizer, and it's random. How can you complain, really?
But on the bright side, we get to see the best part of the game immediately following the chest. So, I mean, Ganon's Tower.
Walking off the dead rocks? Oh, yeah, Ganon's Tower.
Oh, no, that's just classic. Happens every time.
Twice sometimes.
Dead rocks, not bros. Although anyway, I think that may be return karma for the easy peasy drive-through strats in East Death Mountain earlier when Buane just cruised through there with no dead rock issues.
But yeah, these players will need to find the big key to Ganon's Tower before going upstairs, and there's just only so many places it can be. Hopefully it'll be early on so we can get to the fun to watch execution part of the tower and not have to go through the slog of so many rooms in Ganon's Tower where the dumb key can be.
I am seeing some discussion in chat about the significance of boots as far as time save goes. I really think it's more of a significance from a logical perspective than it is from time save. Because, I mean, while boots do save you time, it's not quite, 2 or 3 dungeons or anything like that. I mean, Ben is actually still pretty close, all things considered.
Yeah, Buane just had the much more convenient routing. Finding them as early as it was, because he didn't have to... I think it was early enough to where the speed factor probably helped out.
Oh, for sure.
Not a small amount. I don't want to say it was significant, but it was probably just a medium amount of help.
But being able to route everything with the knowledge that you can access it, you're not just looking for those boots and wasting time on smaller checks.
And doing dungeons like Thieves Town has a lot of spots where you can just run through entire rooms. It has some pretty long rooms, actually. Hey, there's the mirror shield.
Alright, so I totally see what you meant about it being clasped to his shirt. I mean, I can't unsee it now.
That's probably going to hurt more than it's going to help, I think.
Wait, do you mean like literally the lapel thing, or...?
Well, I mean, hey, there's the mushroom on the torch. That is one cooked shroom. It's been there all game. I just mean in Ben's case, with Nature Link, he's gonna have this thing pinned to... He doesn't have a shirt, right?
Well, let's not comment on where that's pinned. However, with the toasty mushrooms and the powder in Misery Mire, yeah, that heat lamp, that can't be safe. That is totally not going to pass health code.
Well, we do get the big key fairly quickly, so that's nice. We'll be going straight through Ganon's Tower. I don't know if Buane feels good or not. He probably feels pretty good about finding the boots before the Moon Pearl. I feel like that was like it, right? That was the major thing in the race. There wasn't really anything else that was like way out of the way checked or anything like that. That was pretty much the decider.
All the exotic things.
The decider, I want to say, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, so many routing decisions were centered around that, and the chain really followed from that. Yeah, the flexibility to check a lot of locations sooner to narrow down where you needed to head. I mean, Buane even finished Eastern Palace when Ben didn't, so I think that also speaks to, some of the routing differences. And we mentioned before, farming rupees, good example of a time loss that could have been avoided.
Yeah, it could have been avoided, but without those boots, this could have been a very different seed. Actually, I don't know how different it would have been. It would have been pretty similar, I think, if not for the boot differences. The only real difference I could see is maybe the timing of going into Ice Palace or Swamp. But even then...
Well, so we will find out one more piece of information, although Wayne could still open a couple of chests if he really wanted to. Not a whole lot of reason to at this point. But could be looking for silvers, and we will find that out from Ganon if we don't find them first. Wayne right now, though, having a pretty good overall ascent up Ganon's tower. Ben here also going to show us spooky tech. I like that we got 100% representation from our runners today. That saves 10 seconds if you do it right.
Yeah, very nice second room there.
Making it look easy.
On to Vitress we go. Plenty of health. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention this earlier. The strat with dipping into the slime to take damage so you can get into a favorable position for the eyes. That's really scary if you don't have like adequate health, because these eyes, if you accidentally take a hit from them, say with green mail, which is what they have in NG at this time, that's 4 hearts of damage. You can't mess this up very much. Of course, they have red mail and plenty of health right now, but it could potentially be super scary.
Yeah, with nearly perfect execution, or basically perfect execution, you can do the fight with as little as 4 hearts lost. But, I mean, that is some ridiculous precision. You don't really want to do that fight with less than 7.
Saw Buane think about, he swapped to powder, ready to powder those guys, but he was like, nah, I don't have time for this, let's just go. He didn't check any additional chests. I guess he checked the one chest in that room, maybe? Yeah, he checked the one chest in that room for potential silver arrows, but he did not check the ones in the mini helm room, and he's not going to check the Moldorm 2 chest either. So, no silvers for him.
And definitely going all the way up. So, if you were really in the corner for Ben here today, this is kind of the place where you wish the most peril to Buane. Really not a lot of reason you would die to ajneb174 with 10 hearts and red mail, but, crazier things have happened in Randomizer. Falls, at this point, pretty much what you'd be hoping for.
It's kind of an awkward setup there with them kind of in that weird zigzaggy diagonal. There we go. He did get 3 the first phase. I was worried that 2 of them might have hit at the same time, but it seems like the first phase there was indeed 3 hits. Unless I completely miscounted the other ones too, and then I'm absolutely wrong.
Alright, well that does finish up ajneb174. Buane already at the pyramid here at about an hour 38 minutes. We'll have a pretty straightforward fight here for Ganon. Assuming everything works out well for the first and second phase, should be 1 cycles each. Now, sword spins could be a point where people kind of have issues, but I gotta think Ben and Buane perfectly capable of doing sword spins on Ganon.
I would assume so. I mean, we're only in top 8 of a pretty high-profile tournament, so I would assume that these guys know how to do silverless Ganon, getting through the phases quickly and stuff like that.
To address some questions in the chat about the format here, this is best of 3 series for the single elimination bracket top 8, which was formulated just the top 8, not like bigger than that. It was for a qualifier that fed into it. And then, of course, this is the first of their best of 3. All 4 of the pairs that are in the top 8 will actually be racing their first race today consecutively. So stay tuned, folks. You've got from now till 3 more races before we dial it down here for Randomizer just in this tournament on this channel. So you're in for a lot of fun here.
Right, on to the Dark World, he says. Maybe they were on Catfish after all.
That seems to be the only location.
Yeah, because Yeah, we had. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't on Helmasaur, obviously, and I guess Sahasrahla would have been Light World, so. And he didn't specify Ganon's Tower, so I think Catfish might have been about it. Anyway, getting some nice spins around Ganon. You can potentially get 3 spins per torch lighting if you're doing it correctly. You can spin attack and retain your spin if you shoot the fire rod. You can't do that with the lamp. Lamp will cancel your spin charge. Proper time, you can get 3 spins rather than the 2 that you would normally get.
Yeah, so that's a potentially risky strat if you don't have a lot of magic to work with. But Buane manages his very well. We'll get the sword up here, and as soon as he crosses that Triforce room, we'll have an official SRL timing for him. It looks like he's going to be the winner today.
Congratulations to Buane, taking the first place in our race of 2 players. The top half percentage. The first winner of our top 8 in this tournament. Very nice.
And he finishes on screen. You see his unofficial time from his timer, 1 hour 40, 23:84. Ben here, though, also in Ganon's Tower, so this ended up being rather close despite some of the earlier kind of distinctions that we saw and divergences. We'll see, though, if we can get Buane in here for an interview. I'm sure he has some thoughts about some of the locations this time around.
Yeah, he was probably super pleased about finding those boots as early as he did. And I guess before he gets in here, while people are still kind of here, I want to reiterate that we do have 3 more matches today. One of them is starting in an hour, I believe. An hour on this channel. And that will be ALG Andy versus Salty Fries, so definitely stay tuned to that. And welcome, Buane. Congratulations on your win.
GG.
Hey guys, GG, thanks a lot.
So I want to ask how you were feeling whenever you got those boots before going through Aghanim.
Boy, what a really mean-spirited early game in this seed. When I got the Master Sword off of, from doing Desert, I said, okay, kind of looks like Aghanim, and that cape being there, I don't know, there's a lot of Aghanim required seeds that kind of give you 3 of the 2 requirements. A lot of times you end up with Tempered Sword or Master Sword and cape, so I was still 2 items, though I didn't have the Moon Pearl, so I decided to go farm some rupees, looking like Aghanim, and that means you need 100 for Pod if you want to do Pod after Aghanim. It means you need 500 for Zora, so if I go down here, farm a bunch of rupees, go do Houlihan, I'm set for wherever the heck this Moon Pearl ends up being. Still made you run around with those boots. I had to go all the way back to Desert when the cape led to the hook shot, so the first 45 minutes of this seed were not very nice.
After getting the boots, I was interested that you did go to Aghanim fairly early, like before going through Death Mountain, looking for the Moon Pearl. Did you just feel that strongly about Aghanim?
Well, I didn't have any more items on Death Mountain to check. After the boots, the only thing I could have done besides Aga was Bonk Rocks, and I was still 2 items away from Dark World, so figured I'd just combo Bonk Rocks with the actual check of the Lumberjack. Get my big 20, apparently.
Of course, the hook shot was on the bumper ledge, not on the Desert Torch. That's right, I'm remembering now. I promise I was here.
It was a while ago that all that crazy stuff was going on. The rest of the seed was fairly straightforward after, doing all that crazy stuff to pick up the hook shot. It was pretty straightforward, I guess, from there. But yeah, I mean, first crystal at the 49-minute mark and all the other stuff that went into that. Farming rupees. That's been a while since Moon Pearl on the Pyramid. This seed was pretty mean to start and then mellowed out a little bit.
It was definitely fixing to be a long haul early on, and pretty relieved to see how quickly the two of you managed to kind of get through things. Because, I mean, some of those logical gates that we were just talking about really looked like they were going to come down to the very last location for both of you several times. But it seemed like between the two of you, you managed to keep a couple of item locations off the table completely. Nobody checked catfish.
Yeah, like I said, it was nice that the second half of the seed was kind of straightforward. Not perfectly straightforward, but I don't think I ever ended up in a spot where I didn't have something decent to do post hookshot. But certainly there were many more trolls that could have thrown at us. Some of those out of the way locations, didn't do purple chest, didn't do catfish, didn't do spike caves. Checked the pedestal because boy, the pedestal was gettable pretty early, but
Yeah,
it went easy on us the second half, thankfully.
Yeah, after giving you two different routes to Aghanim, I feel like the seed, or at least the rando gods out there, had to pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that too. It would have been kind of a bummer if I had somehow farmed all that money to do Zora before going to Desert, got the cape and missed out on one of the swords. Although I guess the other swords were right in your way, so you would have ended up with Tempered Sword no matter what. But very, very interesting, route it had us take through. I was pretty shocked when there was just nothing in Eastern Palace and felt pretty bad about that. And then for there to be nothing through Desert and say, I guess I'm going to be doing some vanilla bow and arrow strats on Landmo. Here we go.
Yeah, it was a little tense to see whether or not you're going to remember all the NMG locations for arrows, and you did remember pretty much everything on the way there, and lo and behold, you had 3 left, I think, at the end of the fight. I mean, pretty clutch.
It was one of the things, I mean, not that there were any right or wrong. I think anything that we did with access to Desert as early as we had and with access to Eastern as early. One of the things that pushed me to Eastern is just I can pick up a bunch of arrows and at least leave Eastern with some arrows and then stock up on more arrows in Desert. So I just, with as weird as a start as it looked like, you kind of don't want to push yourself into a mistake really early. There's nothing you're going to do at the 10-minute mark that's going to win you a game. So I guess if it's going to tell me, hey, you can go clear these dungeons, I'll go clear the dungeons. I won't be happy about it, but yeah, after the hook shot, really the painful part was going all the way back to Desert, bonking the cape off the torch just to get the hook shot, because at that point there was really nothing left good to do. But then, yeah, like I said, after that point, it kind of became a very normal seed from that point forward.
Right, we do see Ben ticking down Ganon. Unfortunately, going to be in second place, though this is a best of 3. We will see how it goes tomorrow. You guys have both of your races scheduled tomorrow, correct? In case you need both.
Yeah, we have a back-to-back. So we'll see how that. I don't think either of us is thrilled about that, but we'll see. I'm sure there'll be 2 great races if we have 2 of them, so that'll be exciting. But yeah, I mean, just taking one match off of Ben, 2-time champion, one of the first randomizer players I really started tuning into his stream when I started picking up the game. So if he 2-0s me tomorrow and that's it, then this was, a fun way to go out. But if I can advance, that'll be fun too. There's so many other great players in these top 8, so it's not exactly going to get easier if I advance. It's fun to, be part of this, and it's fun to play in front of all these people and play somebody really top-notch like Ben, too.
And speaking of Ben, also known as ajneb174, how are you doing today, Ben? GG, congratulations on finishing up the seed.
Hey, thanks for GG. GG, Buane.
Hey, Ben, GG.
So I'm sure you both had a little time to talk about it since, but I think the boots location was really just kind of the... It is really the only difference, right? Because everything else just kind of fell into place.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised.
The only thing that I've felt nice about after that was I don't know if Ben full cleared ice or not, but I was able to go mode ice. That made me feel pretty decent because there were a lot of opportunities to dive in there earlier. But yeah, I mean, if I got the boots way ahead of him, it's that early game was just so mean, and not finding the boots until it's like last possible spot or something like that would have been even worse.
Yeah, early game was really weird. I don't remember having an early game like that ever.
Yeah, this is like a throwback to with the whatever version I started playing on, where you get Moon Pearl on Pyramid. But Moon Pearl on Pyramid wasn't even the hardest part. You know, Zora 2,
Yeah.
and then Cape back in Desert. Like just really, really rough first half of this
It
one.
was.
You guys,
I feel like that kind of logic's so old that it's like from the standalone patcher days.
Exactly.
You guys had gotten the Moon Pearl and the boots probably within like 5 or 10 seconds of each other, so it was really nice seeing both of them, both decisions being required. Ben, you had a pretty funny Land Mola fight. You didn't have the fighter's sword, but
Yeah, I had to do it with kind of a low number of arrows also, so I was kind of being careful on not missing too much. And it was a really bad fight. I was thinking about using bombs, but I wasn't sure how to place them anymore, so I was just, I'm gonna play safe, just arrows. But yeah, seeing the boots 1 hour in was painful.
I
But
just
shit,
figured that
I did Ulian pretty early, because when I went down after coming back from Eastern, I was kind of hoping, yeah, I probably get 300 or something, and I just didn't get anything, so for a long time, never getting the 500.
yeah, it was really unfortunate that I guess your routing just led you up to Zora's area early but there were really not any rupee drops early on at all.
No.
So you couldn't even get near enough to buy that, even with Houlihan. And then it was just kind of an orphaned location, so it made sense not to go back, I think, until it just getting to that time. All right, well, I think that just about might do it for us. Anything else you guys want to get off before we kind of sign off here?
Not really.
Not just GG to Ben. I'm sure we'll have another, hopefully not quite as trolly one tomorrow, and maybe even a nice back-to-back for Game 3. We'll see what happens, but
I hope so. I
yeah,
hope so. GG to you.
yeah, GG. And Yuta, McCann, you know, I'm gonna watch this one back. I'm sure it was a lot of fun seeing us flail around for a while. I'm sure you guys did a great job on there, and just everybody else behind the scenes for making the whole tournament. Not just you know, this is kicking off a day of 10 straight hours of Link to the Past here or something like that. So
Yeah,
It's
I'm
glorious.
gonna sit back and enjoy the rest of the day.
that's good. It's nice to have the the early, the first one of the day, right? Because then you don't have to worry about the rest of the day.
Exactly.
Better to get the pressure out of the way, you know, first. And then, of course, we do have the remaining races of the series, too, depending if we see a Game 3. And I think the fans out there would love to see a Game 3 because it's more rando, right?
Of course.
Can never go wrong with more rando.
Then also want to extend the same sentiments. Thanks to Cassidy and Moen for doing our tracking today and keeping us pretty straight and narrow on what's actually going on in the race. It's pretty easy to mix things up sometimes from commentary side. And of course, to all of you out there watching, a bit of housekeeping here. We will have the next race coming on, I believe, within the next 5 to 10 minutes here, as we do have to kind of account for some stream delay and other things going on. So, like we mentioned, there's going to be a total of nearly 10 hours of Randomizer today. Highly recommend you keep your Twitch channel page open to this, you know, particular speed gaming channel to catch all of it, as we will have one race for each of the top 8 duos, all 4 of them. So lots of excitement if you want to follow the rest of this tournament. Good to get a head start on what's going on in these series. Other than that, though, thank you, Mikan, for sharing the mic with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much. And if you are interested in the continuation of these 2 racers, tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time is the scheduled second race. And then if a third race is needed, it will be immediately after. So doing back-to-back randos can be kind of tough. So that's definitely... Oh, good luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and as
thanks.
always, give these guys a follow because they're putting on awesome shows and potentially risking a back-to-back rando just to entertain you guys. So I'm well, of course, and for money. Got to point that out.
Yeah, just just one win will get you a small bit of the cash here. So no pressure or anything, right?
got a little quiet there. Well, we wish both of you the best, and we're excited to see the rest of this series, and I'm sure everybody watching is. So for everybody out there, stay tuned. Good 5, maybe 10 minutes, and you'll see the next match. I've been ajneb174, joined today by Mikon. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, have a good day.